Coming up on iOS today, I am joined by Dan Moren. This time we talk puzzle games for iOS and iPadOS. It's escape rooms, it's puzzle boxes, it's strange puzzles that use your iPhone's different sensors. There's so much to talk about there. Then we get on to the news where we talk about a new support page that helps you deal with that kind of pesky activation lock. Plus, we answer your questions and listen to some feedback before we round things out with our app cap. Yes, our app picks of the week. Stay tuned for this special episode of iOS Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Gabi Insurance. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance. See how much Gabi can save you. It's totally free to check and there's no obligation. Go to gabi.com/iOS Today. And by Sandisk's Data Storage Solutions. Check out their iXpand Flash Drive Lux today and get 15% off your first order of the featured Sandisk products at sandisk.com/iOS. And by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is ridiculously fast. You can stream everything in HD quality with zero buffering. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/iOS today. Oh, wow. Hello and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk about all things iOS, watchOS, tvOS, iPadOS, all the OSs pretty much, and sometimes even macOS. Yeah, we get wild here on iOS Today. And I am excited to say that we are joined today by a special guest. Don't worry. I know the last time I said we were joined by a special guest, they ended up replacing Leo Laporte as my co-host on iOS Today. Our special guest today is truly that, a special guest. Rosemary Orchard will be back next week, but I am excited to say that I, Mikah Sargent, am joined by who?
Me, Dan Moren. Hi, Mikah Sargent. So good to see you. I am not Rosemary Orchard. I could never replace Rosemary Orchard, nor would I dare even try. But it is a pleasure to be here co-hosting this show with my good friend and co-host of the Clockwise podcast, which is you.
That is me, yes. And as you said, it's nice to see you. When we do the Clockwise podcast, it's audio only. And so we don't quite see each other in those settings. So it's a little change for doing a tech podcast that is also visual, as opposed to just our Dungeons and Dragons podcast that we do over on the incomparable Total Party Kill. That's right. Plugging it in there.
Excellent.
Theincomparable.com/TPK. Head there. Anywho, it was interesting because I thought, okay, Dan Moren's coming on the show. This is an award-winning and well-known author of excellent sci-fi books. And so obviously we should do a show about writing, right? However, Rosemary and I, one of the first shows that we did together was a writing show. And so I was kind of trying to think of something that made sense for you and I to talk about. And I remembered the other day you tweeting something that was in my heart, which was a kind of what the heck is going on about the New York Times crossword app, because they took the keyboard and shrunk it, or something weird is happening where the keyboard is small. And so I thought,
can't type on it anymore. It's the worst.
Yeah, it's like, I wanted to hit E, not R. But with that, I thought, okay, maybe some kind of word puzzle games or something like that. And you said that you actually have some puzzle games in general that you play, that you know about. So we kind of broadened the topic a little bit. And today we're talking about some great puzzle games on iOS. So yeah, let's go ahead and kick things off, Dan, with your first pick.
All right. Well, I love puzzle games, and it's the fun of a puzzle game is always trying to find something that is challenging enough that you spend some time with it, but not so challenging that you beat your head against the wall. So the first one that came to mind when I thought of the best puzzle games that I play on iOS is The Room, and specifically the most recent installment of this, which is a fairly long franchise at this point, The Room Old Sins. This came out a couple of years ago. And it is available on a bunch of platforms as well as on iOS. I played it on my iPad. I found it awesome on the iPad because the touch interface really, I think, elevates the gameplay. But what makes the Room series so fun is it's got a great combination of puzzles and weird atmospheric sort of eeriness. It's got always this level of creepiness in it, and that's exemplified in Old Sins because they have this dollhouse that is sort of the central part of the whole story. And you're trying to uncover what has happened to this couple, this husband and wife, who are doing these strange experiments. And things are kind of vaguely sinister, and there are lots of these gadgets, and you need to figure out how to run these switches and turn things and push things and click things and find parts and slot them in. It's just a great sort of object-oriented puzzle solution that looks beautiful and really, I think, does a great job of challenging you and trying to make you think outside the box. It's a fabulous game. I love the whole series, as I said, and it's well worth playing them all. But yeah, sometimes you're going inside the box, sometimes you're going outside the box. But it just requires you to do some of that lateral thinking. And that's what I love about puzzle games, is really making you scratch your head and try to come up with an interesting, but if I put this thing here, maybe that would help explain what's going on. And if you like a little bit of, eeriness in your mysteries, this is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, this is what I like about this is, so I'm currently working through the tutorial here, kind of learning the way that you move between tools, and lightning just flashed as you move between tools and different types of interactions. And this really does feel fit for the iPad, I think. So we're going to double tap on the floodlight to get back to it. And then, so it turns out that the screwdriver is needed to fix the floodlight because there was something wrong. Right. And see, it's not as if you don't just drag and drop and that's it. I kind of like this, that, to undo a screw, you need to go lefty-loosey, as they say, righty-tighty.
Sure.
And open things up. And then, what could be broken in here? See, this is fun.
Everything's kind of intricately crafted, too, which is fun. It's got a real tactile feel to it, which I think is, again, one of the things that the touch interface does really well, is lets you feel like, I'm interacting with these things. I'm trying to figure out where this goes and what's supposed to stay where.
Whoa, oh, my goodness, that's really cool. So
there's some great multi-touch stuff. Yeah.
And now, the light has turned on. And we can see this creepy dollhouse that I'm pretty sure just had like roots growing around it or something.
Yeah, it's probably fine. It's probably fine. You and I have never ventured into a creepy house together, Mikah, right?
Oh, golly. Investigate the dollhouse is not something I thought I was signing up for here. But alas, here we are in the attic. At least they didn't put us in the basement.
I never started in the basement.
Oh, see, now I just saw this news report about these houses in San Francisco that are paying to have blue checks added to them, but it all is based on a joke. And now this is interesting here to see that.
Yeah, so there's a really great environment with this dollhouse. It is sort of the centerpiece of this. And as you go through it, you're going to there's going to be weird stuff happening. There's going to be some things that require some investigation. You're going to take you some time to sort of figure out how to get from place to place. And there's a lot of mechanics that sort of unfolds as you go. And like a lot of times, it puts out a lot of places where it's like, okay, there's a lot of ingredients for this puzzle, but it takes some time sometimes to figure out, where do I go? And they do have, as the tutorial is pointing out, a very handy hint system, which is nice because puzzle games, every once in a while you get stuck with something and you're like, where do I go? What's the next step? And it can be frustrating and you might end up being like, I'm just going to throw this across the room. But it's nice that it has a hint system where you can be like, okay, it sort of guides you to the next place without giving too much away.
Yeah. Looks like a little gear puzzle here, per chance. Aha. And now I've gotten into the front gate. So there you go. That's kind of a little look at this game. The Room Old Sins, available for $4.99 in the App Store. And this is a one-time purchase. It's not going to, in the midst of the game, I'm imagining it's not going to pop up and say, you've run out of tokens. You need to purchase more.
Yes, your puzzle is figuring out how to pay us more money. No, it's all, I like games where you pay for it once and then you get the experience. For me, that's the ideal way to experience a game.
Agreed. All right. So what is next on your list?
Well, next is a popular one. It's a couple of years old as well, but I think a lot of people are probably familiar with it. It's Monument Valley 2, which is the sequel to the excellent Monument Valley. Another fantastic sort of 3D style puzzle game. The original Monument Valley obviously was a beautiful game that really played with a lot of perspective and made you sort of, again, figure out how to manipulate things. And I love the way that it plays with geometry and sort of an MC Escher-esque look at how things come together and trying to make you bend your brain in certain ways. And Monument Valley 2 is it's a lot of fun. It's beautiful. It's got great music. It's got really just gorgeous graphics. And it tells a little bit of a story, too, as well there. And I think that it does a nice job of balancing this one, I feel like, unlike The Room, which is like very narrative heavy, this is a little bit lighter. The sort of narrative overlaid on it is a little bit thinner, but it's still really immersive. And it still manages to convey a really emotional story, I feel like.
Yeah, I think the good thing about this is where the Room feels like one where you want to sort of sit down, pay very close attention to what's going on, especially because it's a bit of a mystery. It's not just puzzles solely. Then it can be kind of one of those where you've got to give it the time that it deserves. This one you can sort of tinkle around with whenever you are doing other things. And of course, as the game notes, the best experience for it is to listen with headphones because they do have a beautiful soundscape that they've created. And and look, there's a little wave going because there's a person coming along for the ride. But even without the audio right now, I'm still getting enjoyment out of not only playing it, but also seeing these beautiful creations that they've made and the colors that all just, it's just very thoughtfully designed. And I've always appreciated that about the Monument Valley games.
And I think you're right. You made a great point. It's something that I feel like is easier to pick up and put down because you can like play a stage, as it were, and like be like, all right, I've got 5 minutes to try and solve this puzzle. Whereas, something like The Room might be more of an immersive experience that you really spend a few hours on. And Monument Valley is a good way to work your way through like little bits and pieces when you got a few minutes here and there. Yeah.
And I'm currently remind me if I'm wrong, but I think that Monument Valley was one that did an AR experience at one point. This game does seem to lend itself well to augmented reality. And so even if I think that it had at one point a little bit of a kind of additional feature where you could kind of make the AR stage, at least in Monument Valley 1. And I
don't remember that, but that's possible.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see them do this if Apple, comes out with these AR glasses that we've heard of, that they're one of the first to kind of jump on board. Yeah, I mean,
the studio behind this is extremely, popular and very talented, clearly, and they've worked on a few other games as well. But I would not surprise me at all to see them. They seem to be, a company that really focuses on the experience that they can provide with these devices.
Absolutely. And yeah, as we're kind of showing here, I'm able to talk to Dan and play along. It's not as if there's passages of text to read or anything like that, which I don't know about you, but for me can get a little bit, it can be difficult to do, reading passages of text and doing other things. But here I'm able to kind of play this game and be able to move along in the menus without it being an issue. Now we've got a Trixie thing. So this is Monument Valley 2, also available for $4.99 in the App Store. Of course, Monument Valley, the first version is excellent. The second version kind of adds on to that experience. Now, this is available, I think, on they say it's designed for iPad, but I'm playing it here on an iPhone. But yeah, you can play it on either place. Whenever I launched it on the iPad, it was in portrait mode, which for me on an iPad is not an ideal. Yeah, it gets a little unwieldy. So with the phone, it's a little bit easier to play.
I like it on the phone. It's a good phone game.
All right. Let's talk about this next pick of yours.
Well, this next pick of mine, it has a fun name. The name of the game is Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, which sounds kind of threatening. And it does involve, so we've all seen movies where it's like, they have to defuse the bomb, and which wire do they cut, right? And what I love about this game is this is one of these asymmetric games where you play with friends, but not everybody is doing the same thing. So the basic premise of this is one of you is got this bomb in front of them. It's got all these controls and buttons and wires and all of this. Your other friends, and I think this supports a handful of other people that you can play with, they have the manual that explains how to disarm the bomb. And what's tricky about this is that the whole thing is, designed to be kind of ridiculous. The instructions on them will, have these, phrases that are ambiguous, deliberately ambiguous, to make it harder for you to convey to your friends. Because the whole point is they can't see the bomb. Only you can see the bomb, and only they can see the manual. So you're trying to, it's almost like a little bit of a telephone game where you're trying to explain to them all right, so tell me how many wires there are. What colors are the wires? Is it blue? Is it yellow? And you're but it's blue and yellow. You're hold on. And so they got to flip through the manual and figure out okay, what does it mean if there are 3 wires and one of them is blue and yellow? Which ones are the ones that they cut? So it's got a little bit of a logic puzzle going on there.
Yes.
And then it's got some communication skills. And there's just a lot of stuff going on, but it's a lot of fun to play. And I've played this in person before, back in the days when we could get together with a group of people, sitting around, and one person would have, the screen in front of them, and the rest of them would actually be paging through physical pages of a manual.
Oh, nice.
And it
gets ripped as you're getting more
exactly.
into it.
No, wait. I think I saw it on that page, and it's tense. It's a little bit tense. If you don't like games that feel like they're too tense, I will warn you, it does feel a little tense, because there is a countdown timer going, and you have only a certain amount of time to actually defuse the bomb. But it is still just a lot of fun. I usually find it uproariously funny at some point where somebody has told you to do something, and then you suddenly realize, wait, what? And it's too late. So it's a really clever game. I was delighted to see that it existed in a iPad form, because I'd only played it last time I had looked. It had only been available on the PC, which was very disappointing. It's the most fun, obviously, if you play it in a real life group, but that's a little hard these days. I think you could probably get away with doing it over Zoom or something like that. It strikes me as a game that you could make happen over that.
This is wild. So using the label from step 1, push the first button that appears in its corresponding list. So if it says ready, yes. Okay. I mean, look at all of these options here. This could get very intense. I think.
Very confusing too.
Exactly. You're going, no, I think you're supposed to. And then my recommendation for you folks out there is please consider getting, if you're going to play this on iPad, consider getting AppleCare Plus for your iPad before you play it. Because if that thing gets tossed and cracked, you might want to get it replaced. No, this is there's a VR version of this game as well.
Yeah.
And it works the same way. You've got the person outside of VR that is doing the talking. And there's something about these kind of raucous games that is a lot of fun. Again, as you say, particularly in person. But I've seen these games played over, Zoom or some other kind of thing. And as long as you've got a good internet connection, it can work. And in fact, one time, I think it was Leo and I and some other folks were playing a game that's similar to this. It's about flying a spaceship through space, and so you have to sort of navigate asteroids by
was it
down
Space Team?
Yeah, Space Team. Yeah,
Space Team. Yeah, that's a good game. Very, very similar ilk of game there. That's a lot of fun.
Yes, and those games, there's something very exciting, of course, but also the collaborative nature of, instead of it's you against other people, which is how most board games and things like that work, where you're all working together for a common goal. I tend to like those games because then I don't want to beat up my siblings because they've beat me in Monopoly.
I'm a sucker for cooperative games. I've always loved cooperative games. I think they provide a very different. I don't know. I like you. I want to be in a group with my friends trying to overcome some other obstacle. It feels more fun to me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we are going to take a quick break and then we will come back with some of my picks. But I am so excited here to tell you about a way to save so much money and so much time. It's Gabi Insurance who are bringing you this episode of iOS Today. You're probably overpaying on your car or home insurance. You know it. I know you know it. I know you know it. I knew it. I knew I was overpaying on car insurance, but it was just kind of like, I don't want to go through that process. You don't have time to deal with it. And so you kind of just let it go and just move along and you kind of let that thought just drift away. What if there's technology out there, though, that could help you find the absolute best deal out there? I have a feeling you know what technology I'm talking about. That's right. It's Gabi. How'd you like to keep an extra $961 a year in your pocket? That's how much Gabi customers save per year on average on car and home insurance. So that's why when I was shopping for insurance, I used Gabi. And of course, this is the time of year where we go shopping for insurance, the start of a new year, the chance to check out some other options that are out there. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance by giving you an apples to apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers like Progressive, Nationwide, and Travelers. All you do is link your current insurance account, and in most cases, you're going to receive quotes in a few minutes for the exact same coverage you currently have. In fact, that's exactly what I did. And then if you want to move forward with one of those quotes, the insurance company you selected has to review all of your details and confirm the final price. That's how the insurance companies works. And at the time, there may be adjustments based on any new info that wasn't shared prior. And then in that case, you would speak with a Gabi agent. Now, this is kind of a wild statistic. On average, an online quote takes you 1,100 keystrokes. 1,100 keystrokes to do an online quote. And think about if you're going to multiple sites, doing multiple quotes to try to get the best option. Gabi is going to give you multiple quotes, thousands of keystrokes. And that way, it's going to save you a tremendous amount of time. And folks, this is what also is fantastic. So I went on there and followed through the Gabi process, and it turned out I was already saving the most money I could on my car insurance. I happen to have a very old car from 2004, and so my insurance rate is fairly low because of the way that insurance works. And so my rate was already the best I could get. And instead of Gabi trying to upsell me or figure out some way to get me into some other insurance, no, they just let me know, look, we can't find a better deal for you. And congratulations, that's great. I love that because that there speaks to the level of honesty and forthrightness that Gabi is going to give you. If you've got the best deal, they're going to let you know, hey, you got the best deal. But for so many customers, Gabi customers are saving $961 per year. And again, that's on average. It'd be nice to have an extra $961 in your pocket, I'm sure. If you are concerned, as I mentioned, you go in, you put in your insurance information and they help you figure it out. So that way you're not hopping between 9 different windows you have open going, okay, here's my insurance. I need to plug that in. Okay. Is that the same kind of premium? Okay. Is that the type of insurance I have to protect the other drivers? Trying to figure all that out. No, Gabi takes care of all of that. So you don't have to do that. But you might go, but I have to put in my insurance information. Well, don't worry. Gabi never sells your information. You're not going to have to worry about annoying spam or robocalls or anything like that. In fact, I specifically asked Gabi when we talked to them about this thing. Their privacy policy is online, of course, but they assured me, no, that is not, they have no interest in doing that. That's not where they make their money. You don't have to worry about that. And in fact, Leo Laporte put them to the test by using kind of a burner account that to this day still has not gotten any spam or robocalls or anything like that. So they definitely are holding to that. Folks, again, $961 on average. Leo and Lisa saved $2,000 on their home insurance by switching to Gabi. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance. We know that. You know that. Look, it's tough, but not with Gabi. See how much Gabi can save you. It's totally free to check out, and there's no obligation. You just go to gabi.com/iOS today. That's gabi.com/iOS today. gabi.com/iOS today. Seriously, go there, go check it out. There's no hurt, there's no pain, there's no anything. Even if you think you're making the best deal, just go there, give it a try. gabi.com/iOS today. And by golly, you're either going to walk away super proud because you already are getting the best deal on home and car insurance, or you're going to walk away saving money. There's nothing to lose. You got to check it out. And thank you so much to Gabi for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. All righty, Dan. The first app that I want to talk about, I was actually inspired by your choice of The Room. To talk about this app that I think I saw fly by as an app store editorial pick or something like that. And I believe it's meant to be pronounced Get Access, but it's Get ACC _E55 if you're looking for it in the App Store. This app is a kind of puzzle room app. And so I'll tap on it here. And you can see that you start out in this in this space where there's a computer, there's all of these little tools and things like that. And what we can do is shift the room around to kind of see what all is in the space. And as you shift, you'll notice that what you can see inside of the room kind of changes as well. So I will move this around and kind of zoom in to see these different tools. I should unscrew bolts on the cover to open it. So I'll pick up that screwdriver. I will choose the screwdriver, and then I will use it to unscrew this cover. And then as you start to work through the process, then, it looks like I've got a button. And so I will back out. And I know that there was, a garage door that had a button. And then I think I can press that to leave this room if I want to, although I'm going to stay in this room for a second because I want to see if there's anything else in here that I can pick up. So I'll go back to this area and look at these drawers. It doesn't appear to be anything there. Some flasks. Oh, that's a chemical mixer. And we will back out, and I will try to zoom in. There we go on the computer. There's a floppy disk. It doesn't seem like I can actually use it. Oh, I'll have a nice sip of coffee while I'm here. Thank you. Tapping on the keyboard. So what I kind of like about this is it's just it's very low. What is the word I'm looking for? It's
lo-fi.
Lo-fi and low stakes. Yeah. I could just kind of tap around, and I don't feel like I have to rush or anything like that. So I could just see, does anything, look, there's a drawing board, and it's showing kind of these different tools and how they might work together.
Could be important.
But yes, what you're going to find as you're playing this is that what might seem like it was nothing important at first will end up being something that you kind of want to take note of. So in the bottom right-hand corner here, you've got these little keys that looks like it could be involved in a puzzle later on. And this is, that actually specifically is not speaking from experience. So no spoilers there. I just know that the game ends up having different stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being a factor. An orange steam valve. No, doesn't seem like I need to do anything with that. And just making sure there's nothing behind me. A prototype of something. I'll finish this later. And so let's go ahead and we'll step out here to the main space. Maybe. There we go. And we are out in the courtyard. Now, here in the courtyard, I can see a gas tank. There are some boxes. I can clean those up. Yes, let's recycle these boxes. Can't send them to China anymore. We're able to move this bin out of the way. And what is that there on the ground? It says a hard code bar. So I'll add that to the inventory. And let me see if I can use that swipe card here on the hard code bar. Ta-da!
Ooh.
It'll zoom
Very
in.
clever.
Oh,
Very.
Thank you. Locked. You need to open the lock to do that. And again, it's just, you just tap on different things to kind of see. So I've looked in this view, and this is what I like about it is the how the view shifts how the game is played. That's just kind of fun. It's a
clever.
different take on things. Yeah, so we'll move over here. And this projection terminal doesn't work because it's powered down. How do we go about fixing that? Ta-da, there's a puzzle. So, of course, then you want to connect these different wires together to access that. But I'll go into this bar just to see what's in here. And there's the bar itself. And this is the first time that I've gone into the bar. The last time I played, I got to that kind of main space. But, yeah, you can move things out of the way and kind of look at different news and terminals. So yeah, this is a very kind of tippity tap around app, but it is, again, as you said, clever. It's kind of delightful the way that it works, where the perspective shifts based on how you're looking at it. Lo-fi, low stakes. There's no kind of rushing through things if you don't want to. You can just tap around and try to solve these puzzles. And so it kind of blends a little bit of I Spy or Where's Waldo with a little bit of individual puzzle games like Connecting the Dots, which might remind some of you of Among Us. And it is available for free in the App Store, and then it's 99 cents to get the full game, the whole kit and caboodle, but free to download and try it out, see if it is something that you like, that you want to play around with, and then 99 cents to get the whole
That's cool. I
thing.
didn't know that one, Micah. That's a new game to me. I'm very excited. I have to go grab myself a copy and check it out.
Yes, you should. The low barrier to entry too, I think is really nice. There's something about Leo and I have talked about this before. Those games where they're really good games, but it takes you like 10 minutes to listen to the story that they're telling at the beginning. And you're just like, I just want to try the game. Can we just please move
jump
on?
me in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Pop me in. Let me solve some puzzles.
This next one is so much fun, but it is one of the most complicated puzzle games that I've played because it is kind of meant to be. It's called Blackbox, Mind Puzzles game. It's available for free, and then for $4.99 you can unlock all of the extra puzzles. And what I love about this game is that it makes use of the different features of, like, it is a game built for the iPhone. And I mean that specifically. It is a game that uses the different tools on the iPhone, the different sensors, the different functions of the iPhone to play. So, for example, here, you can see there's this red meter. And I'll take my iPhone off of this stand for a second so I can show you that as I am moving the iPhone up and down, you can now see, if you've ever been in the Level and Compass app, then this will be familiar to you. This is actually using the sensors within the iPhone to kind of check the level. And what you end up doing, and of course, I've already solved this puzzle. So all of these squares, or I should say squircles, I guess, are already filled in. Or round rects, but they originally were not. So a puzzle that you have not solved yet, the round rects are not filled in, and you have to try to figure out how to fill them in. So in order to fill out the top one, for example, I had to kind of take my phone and turn it all the way upside down. So I'm doing a little bit of a spoiler here, and you can see that it just kind of blipped. And then for the top one, or the bottom one there, I had to take my phone and turn it the other way around. For the middle ones, it was a little bit different. And then taking my phone and moving it to the left and the right to get the other ones, and then the ones in the middle was kind of up and centered and down and centered. So you're literally kind of looking a little silly moving your phone about in that game. And you can see that each of those round rects are related to that game. So each color here kind of relates to a different puzzle. So these purple ones I think this was a sound one, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you can see it was pitch based. And so I had to go, and it's not registering right now because it's plugged into my Mac. And so the microphone is not the same one, but I had to kind of sustain those pitches in order to fill in those colors there at the bottom, those rectangles there at the bottom. So the purple ones were related to sound. The red ones were related to the levels. I'll show you one that I haven't done yet, just so I'm not spoiling it for folks who want to try this out. This one is a location-based, as you might imagine, a location-based app, or excuse me, a location-based puzzle. And so you start it within your home, and then you need to take your phone and move it this amount of distance, that amount of distance, all the way out while the app is still open. And of course, this one, they made it a little bit easier because of COVID-19 so that you don't have to go as far. And you could see that white circle showing the centralized point. The white circle represents how far you've moved from that centralized point. Oops. But it's not just things that you would expect. There's one that's tied to the share sheet where you have to like share to the app in order to solve the puzzle. There are some that involve force quitting. There are some that I didn't even think were things that an app could actually detect. And it just goes on and on. I mean, I've got so many puzzles left that I haven't solved. I still don't know how to solve this one. I don't know what it does I have no idea. So for some reason, in fact, literally, as we're playing this, as we're doing this, Dan, that's the first time I filled in one of the rounded rectangles. I don't know what I did.
Blackbox is a great game, but it is not easy. I have to say, I remember when it came out, and I'm just like you, was amazed at some of the things that it did. And then you get to a point where it's like you feel like you've tried everything. And then you're like, wait, I haven't used this feature of the iPhone. And all of a sudden, it's just mind blowing in the way the developer is so creative about coming up with these puzzles. I find it's one of the best puzzle games I have ever played, and also one of the most challenging for sure.
Yeah, this one. I even because you can, so it's free to download. It's $4.99 to unlock all the rest of the puzzles, but you can pay for tokens to get hints. And I bought some hints for this specific puzzle, and I still have absolutely no idea how to solve this puzzle. It's so frustrating, but I love this game. And what's kind of fun is that after you unlock enough, then you start to get access to merch. And so I could order the laptop decal, the enamel pin, the shirt. I've gotten as far, but in order to unlock the last bit of merch, I have to do 6 challenges. And I have not gotten that far yet because these other challenges that remain are still so difficult. Look, I'm going to actually keep this app open because it's just about noon, which is how I can unlock the first one. But I love, it's so delightful and clever. And that's what makes this, even though it's frustrating whenever I can't figure it out, when you do finally figure it out, you go, that's brilliant. And also, how the heck did you get access? Like, I didn't even think about using that sensor for this. It just makes it so much fun.
It really rewards patience too. That's definitely a game that you need to sometimes be like, because I remember the distance one doing that one point, and originally pre-pandemic, it was like the furthest one was like, I don't know, like 1,000 miles from your house or something ridiculous. Like you got to get on a plane, and it's like, wow, that is, I mean, just brilliant, but frustrating as heck if you can't get on a plane.
Yeah, you just had to wait for a global pandemic to beat that one, then you're good.
Yep, that's it. There we go. That's the cheat code.
Yeah, exactly. Up, down, pandemic start. Let us move on to my last pick here called Samsara Room or Samsara Room. I'm not sure. But this one is, it is a puzzling, weird game, a very weird and puzzling game. It is a lot like an escape room. It's a little chilling. So you use these arrow keys to kind of move around. Apparently it doesn't sync progress because I definitely got further than this in the space. But do you see this weird little person here? Ooh. Is that me? I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery that you're trying to unlock. Too bad that is locked. Oh, there's a candle I can put in my inventory. I can zoom in here. I can open up this envelope. I thought, maybe not. I thought I remembered opening that envelope before, but maybe not. There's a phone. I wonder what that says. Get G-E-T. Get me. Nope.
The spacing's wrong. Oh, so the T has does the T have a space in front of it? I can't tell.
I think it does.
That's a
hang up.
clue. Oh, this is wild. I love this.
Line.
Yeah, I like it. Oh boy.
Yeah, I'll come back to that because I want to show some of the other stuff in here. So we can zoom in here and there's some sort of strange. Looks like we can do that, and then we can do that, and then that lets us move this here and this here, which I think lets us unlock that latch, right? Bring that down, and then we can get that other candle.
Oh yeah, that's a very secure candle.
Some objects you can drag, like these drawers.
A knife.
A fish.
That's right. I keep my fish in the drawer next to my knife.
Excuse me, sir. Where's your fish? Well, it's where I always keep it. Yeah, in the drawer next to my knife.
A lizard.
A little gecko. And that's interesting. Is there some sort of... Oh, my word. It's not real? I don't know why it's not letting me drag it more.
That's cool.
But yeah, there's something hidden behind there. I don't know why it's not letting me. There we go. Oh. What is this? And this is what I wanted to show you. So, there's a candle in one, and I happen to have 3 candles. I wonder what happens if I put those in these places. Aha. Now, do I need to put something in here? Can I put the knife in there? No. Can I put the fish in there? I can put the fish in there. But it looks like those candles are not lit. I wonder if I need to light those candles. Where might I find something to light the candles? Interesting. Okay. Zoom in on the clock. Can I change the time on the clock? Yes. Anything in there? No. But look, there's the lizard again. I can make it move. And I think we want to go to this. Bring that out and oops. Enlighten me. And look at this strange little thing. So that cube, I remember being on the scale, and it's showing, okay, a fish can go on the scale. Maybe that gecko can go on the scale. Maybe a worm, an egg, a human being, and whatever that thing is at the top. But now I think that we know that this is enlighten me. And there are my matches. So I'm not going to, I won't spoil it past this point. I just wanted to show kind of what the sort of progression of this game looks like. So I'll use the matches on the candles, and then it opens this strange hole that I tap on, and I can tap to move towards this cube. And now I'm in the room again, but the room has changed. And now look at me. I'm a fish man. So that's all I'm going to show you of Samsara Room, because there's so much more to it. And I have actually not completed the whole puzzle yet. I don't know how it ends, but each of these individual rooms have different puzzles involved in them, and it kind of is a mystery that plays along with it. Samsara Room is available for free to download, 99 cents for the full game. So again, Get Access and Samsara Room were the 99-cent versions, and then Blackbox was $4.99 for the full game. I think all of them are well worth it, especially those 99 cents ones. It's kind of a no-brainer. But even the $4.99, there's so many delightful puzzles involved with Blackbox that I think that people will enjoy for sure. So yeah, that folks, is the puzzles segment of today's episode of iOS Today. I hope that you enjoyed some of those puzzles. And of course, be sure to let us know about some of your favorite puzzle games. Shout out to the New York Times crossword, which we both love, even whenever it messes with us with its tiny keyboard that's come around all of a sudden. But I do think it's pretty great. Yeah. Let us go ahead and move on.
You got me some new games there, Mike. I'm very excited because I like puzzle games, and I always find it's hard to find good ones. There's a lot of ones on there where it's like, this isn't as challenging as I'd like, or, it makes you pay all the time for extra tokens. And I like finding good ones that are just a great experience. So I'm already downloading a couple of these as we speak.
Nice. Well, you go ahead and download those games and maybe start playing around with them while I take a quick break to tell you about an awesome new sponsor here on iOS Today. It's Sandisk. Look, at some point or another, I think we've all had to email a photo from one device to another, had to figure out a way to move photos from one device to another. And of course, if you're all plugged into the iOS ecosystem, it's not that hard. You can use AirDrop, you can use Messages or some other tool. But what about moving between different devices? What about trying to figure out how to get something from the computer to the proper phone or proper tablet? Well, that is where the Sandisk storage solutions come into play. In fact, one of those storage solutions, the iExpand Flash Drive Lux, this is super cool. Not only is it sleek and beautiful, look at it there in the middle, iExpand Flash Drive Lux, it's a 2-in-1 flash drive for your iPhone and any USB Type-C device so that you can easily transfer and back up files on your phone. With the iExpand Flash Drive Lux, all you have to do is plug in the drive to start freeing up space. You don't even need to have internet connection. You can choose from 64 gigabytes, 128 gigabytes, or 256 gigabytes, depending on your storage needs. And once it's plugged in, look, it automatically starts to back up your info, and you can even password protect your files. You're then free to move the content to your computer or to another device. So it's just this tiny little compact device that it's got a little hook there so that you could hang it on something. You could keep it on your keychain if you want to. But I think the brilliance of it is that on one side, you've got the Lightning connector that you plug into your phone. And on the other, you've got the USB-C connector, which you could plug into your iPad. You could plug into your MacBook Pro. You could plug into any number of USB-C devices. And to be able to swap between those two to get to that drive is so handy. In fact, one of the things that I've used it for is if I am, taking photos on an Android device that has a really good camera, and I just want to quickly bring them over to my iPhone rather than having to go get the Google Photos app and download that on my phone and then download those photos and then get them to install, and all of that process. I plug it into the Android device that boop, 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 pops it onto the drive, and then I could plug it into my iPhone, and I love that little whoosh, it just sort of whips around, plug it into my iPhone. Those photos are available for me to get. And look, even if you have like a whole bunch of different iOS devices, as I'm looking ashamedly maybe in front of me at the myriad of devices I have hanging out here on my screen, on my desk, then this is even better because it's a good way to kind of back those things up. So you may be going, I've got Photos backup, I've got iCloud Photos backup, I've got these different systems for backing up. So why do I need another? Folks, a local backup of your files is incredibly important. Yes, it may be in the cloud, but what happens if you lose internet access? What happens if you lose the password to your iCloud account? I've heard people's really, really, really sad stories, really heartbreaking stories of losing photos of loved ones because of a lost password. So local backups of those photos can be so important. And one of the cool things that Sandisk does is it's kind of complicated, but the way that iCloud Photos specifically works is it will store local low quality thumbnails of your photos in your library. and the higher quality full resolution photos are stored in the cloud. One of the cool things that Sandisk's system does is it makes sure to pull those actual full quality photos. So if you do lose access and you want to pop open those photos, you're not going to be looking at these tiny pixelated images. You're going to be getting the full resolution. I think that's so brilliant. And the way that this works so easily, where I can just plug it in and then, as I said, sort of swip it around and plug it in into the new thing that I want to get access to. It's brilliant. So trust us, you do need to try this 2-in-1 drive from Sandisk. And right now you can get 15% off your first order of the featured Sandisk products, but only when you go to sandisk.com/iOS. So please head to that spot. That's going to let Sandisk know that you came from here, sandisk.com/iOS. That's very helpful to us to get 15% off. Make sure you have local backups of your photos, your files, everything that you need, because just a cloud backup is not enough. sandisk.com/iOS. Thank you so much to Sandisk for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. We appreciate you. All right, the news. The first thing we're going to talk about today, Dan, I don't know, did you see the Washington Post report from Jeffrey Fowler where he kind of did a quick little look at some of the apps in the App Store and their privacy policies, and then, or their privacy labels, and then compared them to... Yeah. So for folks who haven't heard about this, Apple released a new feature that's called app privacy labels. And essentially what this does is it gives you, in fact, I'll show you. Let me open up the App Store here, and we will go to one of the, let's go for Twitch, which is currently advertising in the App Store. And so I go to Twitch and I can scroll down, and there's a section called App Privacy, and I can choose See Details. And then in this section, it shows you different data that it is using to track me. So my device identifier, data that's linked to me. So it says the following data which may be collected and linked to your identity may be used for the following purposes. So here's how it's using that data that is in fact linked to me. It's using my contact info, my device ID, and my usage data for advertising and marketing. It's using all of this information for analytics, all of this information for product personalization, and so on and so forth. Now, this is supposed to give us a look at how this data kind of comes together. It's supposed to give us a look at how an app is using and collecting our data. But it is self-reported. So you can see the developer Twitch Interactive Inc. indicated that the app's privacy practice may include handling of data as described below. So it's not information that Apple has vetted, has confirmed. This is sort of a developer goes ahead and says this is what is being collected, what is not. And because of that, there are apps that are collecting more data than what they claim in their privacy policies. So the Washington Post report was a really good thing, and apparently that has led to more conversation. The U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee and the Consumer Protection and Commerce Subcommittee chair have both penned a letter to Apple's Tim Cook to say, hey, you might want to improve the validity of app privacy labels. I'm curious, Dan, what are your kind of feelings about app privacy labels in general? What is your take on this, on this specifically, on these government bodies kind of saying, hey, you might want to work on the validity of this, and also we need some more info about how this works.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's certainly one of those things where we all see apps that have privacy policies, or we click through, right, and nobody ever reads them. Some people might, but most people probably just skip through it and think, yeah, it's fine, whatever. And like maybe they'll go look for a switch that disables some information collection, but a lot of people just won't really think about it. And obviously with the app tracking stuff that Apple is working on in its upcoming versions of iOS, this has become a hot button issue. And this app privacy labels initiative was sort of grown out of the same idea, which is Apple's ability to say, hey, let's sort of vet what's going on here with all these apps. Now, it's a perfectly great question to say, well, how is this information collected and how are things enforced, right? If Facebook doesn't say that it collects, information A about you and uses it to market stuff, can Apple find out that Facebook has lied about that? And if so, what do they do about it? So, I think it's a good idea, but the enforcement and implication of it obviously is where the details come in. And I don't remember what the exact number that Jeffrey found was, but it was pretty high in terms of the number of like misleading ones. I feel like it was around half, right? It was something like
exactly.
that.
It was like 47% or something. Yeah.
And that's tough. I mean, given that the information is self-reported, you should be able to sort of point the finger back at the developers, but Apple is the one who's created this framework. And so they're at least a little bit beholden to making sure that it's accurate. I mean, it would be as if the FDA, implemented its nutrition labels and then didn't check to see if anything, the ingredients listed were actually what was in these things. I don't know how much information the FDA does, but I would certainly believe it's probably more strictly controlled than the App Store privacy labels. So I think Apple set itself a really high bar here in terms of being able to, count on developers. And there's a lot of loopholes that it needs to figure out ways to deal with. I was thinking about the fact that Google, for example, hasn't updated a lot of its apps since the privacy label started being enforced, which has raised some eyebrows. Even earlier this week, there were Google apps that would complain that they were out of date, even though there was no update available. Because Google has basically gone a month or so without updating to come into compliance with the privacy labels. So that's going to be an issue. Obviously, they're a huge company, and that's something where Apple might be able to reach out to them directly. But yeah, if you got a lot of other places, a lot of other apps that end up misleading users about what information is being collected, then it's certainly an open question of how useful these things are at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess my biggest concern is the conversation or the implication for users. And if people, the average user really believes that what is being shown here is, the truth, and that is kind of the end all be all. And so either if Apple doesn't improve, maybe it's not about improving the validity, although that would be great. Maybe it's more about improving the communication about what is actually being shown. And that is kind of what I would like to see is, I don't know, it might be untenable for Apple to improve the validity per se.
Right.
But
yeah,
you don't think so? You don't feel so?
No, I mean, I think you're totally right. It's the validity is only going to come into play here in one of two cases, right? Either A, they can find a way to definitively have this information obtained independently, right? They can look at an app and say, all right, we're looking at this app and we see it's collecting X, Y, and Z. That's a lot harder to do because a lot of these apps use systems that are essentially not things that Apple can easily pry into. The other flip side of it is essentially using the sort of the enforcement, the stick, right? And saying, if we discover that your app is collecting this information and you are not reporting it, we are going to give you like one chance to fix it. And if you don't do it, then we will kick you off the App Store, right? Like if they are willing to go to that length and say, look, the penalties for not complying are high and really don't risk it, that might help enforce validity. It's not going to be perfect, but it is something where there needs to be a significant disincentive for the app developers to mislead people.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. So speaking of sort of problems with the App Store,
it's a theme.
Yes, it is a theme today, and I think it's a necessary theme in terms of kind of discussing and trying to improve upon. A developer, Costa Eleftheriou, and I'm probably butchering that, and I do apologize. But this developer was talking about their own app. So it was an Apple Watch keyboard app called FlickType, and it is essentially an app that has a little keyboard on your Apple Watch. And the developer was saying, look, I made this app and it was great. And then not too long after that, and I'm going to go to the thread here because I want to make sure to quote this accurately. Let's see. Up to now, I've been in the Apple wants to do the right thing camp. My viewpoint is starting to change. How to spot a $5 million a year scam on the App Store in 5 minutes flat. 4.6 stars with over 80,000 ratings and a glowing 5-star featured review. Let's slide over to the next review in the carousel. Maybe that was an outlier. Let's check the next one. Okay, this definitely warrants to keep scrolling. Now I'm starting to see a pattern here. So it's showing that it's not, basically the different reviews here are showing that it's not working, that people are saying, this app doesn't work. This app doesn't work. The original app did this, but as soon as you get into it, it charges a ridiculous amount of money, $10 a week, which, wow, that there is a feature for charging for weekly costs. I don't think I even knew that, Dan. Maybe you did, but I've never
bought anything by week. Monthly is basically the lowest I would go. But this situation is a real problem because what it's sort of pointing to is the fact that it's easy. And I think a lot of people have learned to be, over the years, sometimes a little suspicious of online reviews. We've all heard of examples of what's called astroturfing, where companies essentially hire people to leave good reviews on their products, because in a lot of these online stores, including the App Store or Amazon, good reviews help you sort of float to the top. And the closer you float to the top, the more likely people are to click on your product. And what we're seeing here is that there are services that will essentially let you pay to get good reviews on the App Store. And I think that's what he's pointing to here, is this idea like, okay, it seems like this app is great, because if you look at it at first blush, it seems like everything's a great review. And there's some bad reviews, but they're vastly outweighed by the great reviews. But it turns out that when you dig a little deeper, you discover maybe most of the reviews are actually not from real people, and they're fake glowing reviews that have pushed this up the chart in an opportunity for this developer to basically say, hey, yeah, sign up for this weekly subscription for $10. You hand over your $10. It doesn't do much. And that's the end of the story, right? They've just stiffed you for $10.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not good. And there are lots of apps that are I've seen scam apps that maybe didn't go as far as charging per week. That just is kind of wild to me. But the bigger thing here is that there are lots of apps that attempt to duplicate. One of our, a colleague or friend of ours who created an incredible app that ended up kind of taking over the world, underscore David Smith, the developer of, and now I can't think of what it's called.
Widget Smith.
Thank you, Widget Smith. I don't know what I was going to say, app widgets or something. Anyway, Widget Smith. There were some apps that attempted to almost exactly clone what he had created. And in some cases, even if they hadn't cloned exactly what he created, they were buying keyword searches to sort of take the spot above his in the App Store whenever people searched for Widget Smith. And so I wonder, Dan, do you think that the ad marketplace in the App Store is also something that Apple needs to improve upon?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think the trick here is that between that and essentially some of these fraudulent reviews, if I were Apple, I would definitely be looking closely at this, because the optics of it are bad, right? The optics of it are, there are people making these great apps, these little independent developers like David Smith, like you said, who's a friend of ours. He's one guy and he's built this app that just happened to be extremely popular, and he's built a bunch of other apps. And he, not only are people sort of copying his work, but, he kind of gets shoved out of it. And when you have ad placement abilities that people can buy keywords that are related to, say, the name of that app. And so when you search for it, that comes up before the app itself. And we know other apps developers who this has happened to as well. I think that is extremely questionable. And I think Apple, if it is really interested in being a developer-friendly store, should reconsider that. And along those lines, those scam apps we talked about, I think it's important to remember that when a scam app charges you $10 a month, Apple's taking 30% of that, right? They are getting some profit from that. And maybe, because they take a percentage of everything, right? So like maybe if you report it and they realize it's a scam and take it back, you might get that money refunded. I would certainly hope so. But Apple, like sort of Twitter with driving people to click on things and go look at Twitter, Apple benefits from the growth and expansion of the App Store with the idea that people keep looking for apps because it's such a huge, vibrant marketplace. So I think if I were Apple, I would be a little wary of being seen as I'm the giant behemoth that benefits from this when smaller independent developers are taking a hit because we allow them to do things like buying ads that supersede their products or allowing these sort of scam apps on the store. Just, and it's a hard problem, as we said, with the privacy labels. It's a hard problem to police. But when you're, the most valuable company in the world, it seems like you probably have an opportunity to do that and certainly the resources.
Absolutely. And to protect its users and its developers that help make it the most valuable company in the world is exactly something that I hope we see. Something that Rene Ritchie has talked about for a long time and has something that I really, sort of latched onto was the idea of having a head of the App Store whose job it is kind of every day to wake up and just solve the problems that are kind of the most trending, if that were the case, or the things that developers seem to be kind of really grousing about, and make sure that instead of just being an App Store editorial team that sort of, while it's also figuring out the top apps to rank, and the developer relations team, which kind of works with individual developers, this head of App Store would just be in charge of making sure that the App Store was the place that developers wanted to be, because it is the best place for developers to be. So I'd love to see that too, Rene.
It's a good idea. I approve.
There you go. It's Sargent and Moren approved. Let us move on to our last little news bit here. I think this is a fantastic option, or a fantastic new feature. So if you've ever sold an iPhone, or there used to be several services that let you trade in iPhones for money, or trade in iPhones for new versions or iPads or what have you. One of the issues that folks would often run into is they would forget to disable activation lock. And so then the device would have to be sent back, or there would have to be some process by which the device could be properly unlocked. For folks who don't know, could you describe activation lock, Dan, kind of what activation lock is?
Yeah. So activation lock is essentially, if your phone is lost, what it does is prevent somebody else from using that phone. So when you restart the phone, it usually requires you enter a password. I think your iCloud, essentially, your iCloud or Apple ID password. And without that, it basically won't be usable at all. And that's to prevent things like people stealing your phone and reselling it quickly. So the idea being it's linked to some information that only you know, that if it's your phone and you've lost it and you find it again, great, you have the password, you can reset it, no problem. But if somebody else manages to get their hands on it, they're not going to be able to use it without your password.
Yep, perfectly put. So with this, you'd have to go into your, I think it's settings, and then you tap on your Apple ID banner at the top, and then you choose Find My. And then you go into, in this case, Find My iPad on my device. No, I guess that's not where it is now. They moved it. It used to be that you had to disable Find My iPhone in particular.
Yeah, I think it's under,
I'm not seeing that.
It's under iCloud. I think there's a, where did they put it? I think they move stuff around all the time on us, don't they?
They do, yes. And then we can't.
And then we can't demonstrate it because it's like, it's there somewhere.
Smugly ready to just go, you just go here.
Yeah, usually it's when you like log out of your iCloud account, I think, on the device these days. I think that disables it. So you need to specifically take an action, right? It's something you need to positively do in order to disable it.
Yeah, so down here at the bottom, there's the option to sign out. And I guess it used to be before that you had to go specifically to Find My, and you would toggle off Find My iPhone, Find My iPad, whatever. And then after you did that, you would log out of your iCloud account. That was always the way that I recommended doing it, because just logging out of the iCloud account would sometimes cause some issues to turn off activation lock. But anyway, point is, now that there's this way, there's also a new way, and that is what I wanted to talk about, an easier way. There's a web page where you can go to improve or to go through the activation lock steps. So it says turn off activation lock at the top, and it says you can turn off activation lock by signing into iCloud or resetting your Apple ID password. And then on the left, there's an option to turn that off. And on the right, there's a place to reset your password at Apple's kind of I forgot page. So what I like about this is that so it shows you how to do it kind of on your device, but you can also unlock on the web. So go to iCloud.com, go to Find iPhone, click All Devices at the top of the screen, select the device that you want to remove from iCloud, click Erase, select Next until the device is erased, and then remove it from the account. And then you just restart the device. It will be logged out. And so you don't necessarily have to do it from the device itself. So think about if you gave it to a family member, but you forgot to log out. Well, you don't have to get the device back or give that person your password. You can just do it from the web and be able to unlock that device. So I just think this makes things a lot easier for folks. And in fact, I've noticed that Apple's been updating and improving upon its support pages to give deep links into things. The other day, my partner's aunt sent him a message saying, your nephew is buying a bunch of apps, and I need to disable that. How do I do that? And how do I get my card off of his iPad, basically? And at that point, Sebastian goes, I set up the password so that you would not, so that wouldn't be a problem. And it turned out that she had given him the password because he kept asking her over and over again, can you type in the password? Can you type in the password? So of course then you are, that by that point, then you can't do it. But point is, Sebastian was a little frustrated because he's like, I set that up so that you didn't have to, but if you give him the password, that just kind of undoes everything. And I was like, well, if you don't want to walk her through it, you can just send her the support link. So I found the support link for it. But when I went to the support link, instead of just having those step 1, step 2, step 3 to get to the page, there was a link at the top that said tap here and it'll take you right to where you need to go. And lo and behold, cool. I tapped it on my iPhone and it popped open the cards within my, that are linked to my Apple ID. Normally for folks who would do it, you would launch the settings app, you would tap on your Apple ID banner at the top, and then you would choose payment and shipping under the Apple ID menu. And then from there, you could remove a card or make adjustments to the card. By tapping that link, it completely skipped all of that. All you had to do was remove the card that you wanted to remove. So I hope they keep adding these deep links to support to make this better, not only for people who know how to go there themselves, but for those of us who know what we're doing and, send links to help other people figure that out, where it's just like, just go to this page and then tap that link and you're right where you need to be. I think that's great.
Way easier than being tap this. Okay, you there?
Exactly.
All right, tap this. All right, you there? Tap this. Yeah, I've been there. I've done that.
Oh no, wrong button. We got to go back.
No, back up. No, tap back. All right, you're good.
Oh yes, that's never fun, especially if you've got someone who's got an older device and then you're on 2 different versions of iOS. Yeah, that's the worst.
But it used to be. It's like with our Find My thing, but it used to be there.
Yeah, literally, I thought it was there. I swear it was just there, and then it's our fault usually. But anyway, let us take another quick break before we get to the feedback segment of the show. And of course, we'll round things out with our app caps. Folks, I am so pumped to tell you that today's episode of iOS Today is brought to you by ExpressVPN. You know what's not fair? The fact that Netflix hides thousands of shows from you based on your location and then increases its price on you. I don't know about you, but I just got that email not too long ago letting me know that Netflix was going to cost me more money. Starting at the end of this very month, they're raising the prices once again for many users. Now, of course, you could just cancel your subscription if you wanted to, if you didn't really want to pay for that higher price, or you could add even more value to your Netflix account by making sure you're getting your full money's worth using ExpressVPN like I do. Yes, folks. And by the way, even in Netflix's own support system, if you go and look, it talks about using VPNs, and it's okay with you using VPNs. That's totally cool. There's nothing illegal about using a VPN. You might not know what's on Netflix in your country is completely different from what someone in the UK or in Japan has. And using ExpressVPN, you can control which country you want Netflix to think you're in. ExpressVPN has over 90 countries to choose from. So anytime you run out of something to watch, you just switch to another country to unlock new shows. Right now, you can watch some of these UK Netflix shows that are not on US Netflix, like some of the Doctor Who episodes, some of the Friends episodes, which of course is originally an American show, but is available in the UK. And with just one tap of a button, ExpressVPN lets you change your location. And it really is that simple. You launch ExpressVPN, you tap and you choose a different location, and then you turn it on, and suddenly you've switched to Italy, Germany, any number of other places. And of course, this is the best part. It's not just for Netflix. You can use ExpressVPN to unlock shows on other streaming services too. In fact, one of the little tricks that I did was Netflix had this. I found it to be. I thought it was going to be a trash show, and it was certainly a garbage show, but it was a good garbage show. It was an Oscar the Grouch garbage show. It was called The Circle, and Netflix had this version of The Circle that was a U.S. show, but it turned out that show actually started in the UK, and so my partner and I wanted to see more episodes of The Circle. And I can't watch BBC iPlayer in the United States because I'm not from the UK. So with a little clicking through ExpressVPN, maybe we watched a couple of seasons of the UK version of The Circle, and it was delightful, and I have no regrets. ExpressVPN is super fast and works on your iPhone, your laptop, smart TVs, so you can watch shows on the big screen, and you don't have to worry about buffering. Yeah, that was one of the incredible things, is that you're maybe used to a VPN's kind of making everything look really pixelated and gross. Not with ExpressVPN. It is incredible how great ExpressVPN works. I use ExpressVPN all the time, and as I've said before, I oftentimes forget that I've got it enabled because of how great it is, how you don't lose any of your speed by using the VPN. And one of the things that I love about ExpressVPN is its trusted server technology. There are lots of VPNs out there. There are lots of free VPNs. There are lots of cheap VPNs, and I use cheap in the sense of charging you very little money but not giving you good quality in return. Those VPNs, in many cases, are logging your information or logging your browsing, and so you use a VPN to try and keep things from logging your information, logging your browsing. But those VPNs are just doing it instead, and in some cases are selling that browsing data to third parties in order to kind of make up the loss that they would get for a free or cheap VPN. ExpressVPN, with its trusted server technology, does not log your data. And in fact, not only is it audited by independent groups, but there have been times where governments have actually come in and taken ExpressVPN's servers, and they can't get anything off of ExpressVPN servers. That's one of the best ways, in fact, security researchers will tell you, the best way to confirm that a VPN is truly not logging your data. It's not from independent audits. It's from a government coming in out of the blue, taking those servers, and then through the research into what was revealed from that, knowing for sure there was nothing. And with ExpressVPN, governments are kind of like, well, I might as well not go to them because of the trusted server technology, which uses RAM, a volatile memory storage service, versus those standard hard drives. But don't even just take my word for it. You can head to ExpressVPN and learn more about trusted server technology. But seriously, it is the VPN I use. It is so incredibly fast, and I know that they're not logging my data online it is so well worth the cost. So be smart. Stop paying full price for streaming services, but only getting access to a fraction of the content that's available. Get your money's worth at expressvpn.com/iOS today. And of course, don't forget to use our link so that way you get those 3 extra months free. That's expressvpn.com/iOS today. Head to expressvpn.com/iOS today to learn more. And seriously, there's no other VPN, in my opinion, that you should even be checking out. ExpressVPN is the VPN for you, as it is the VPN for me. expressvpn.com/iOS today. All right, a little feedback here. Most of these are we've got 3. 2 of them are kind of follow-ups. The third one is a question, but I wanted to start with these follow-up questions or follow-up bits because they're really awesome. Neil writes in, "Hi, I asked via email about my issue with non-Apple Bluetooth headset volume being too loud." So Neil had written in and said, "Look, I'm having this issue where I cannot get the volume to kind of change on the headphones, where it's kind of 0 is no sound, but then 1 might as well be 10, and going up from there gets even louder, but I have no kind of nuance in sort of bringing down the volume." Neil says, "I was happy to receive a great variety of diverse suggestions. We talked about a lot of different things on the show, including firmware updates, including some of the new features in iOS 14, which lets you choose what kind of audio profile is being used with Bluetooth, and ultimately seeing if it was that particular set of headphones that was causing the issue." And Neil says, "In my case, the ultimate solution was a firmware update to the headsets." So after updating the firmware, Neil's headset is working again as is expected, meaning that he can change the volume up and down on the device and actually have it go from 0, 1, 2, 3, and not just 0 to bah, which I'm sure is delightful.
Technical term. Technical term.
Yeah, that is a very yes. For audiophiles out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we've all been to blah. It's the
worst. Paul writes in, "Hi there. Recently, I contacted you complaining about the battery drainage issue in the AirPods Max. I solved the issue by doing a hard reset on the headphones by pressing down the noise control button and digital crown for about 15 seconds until the LED flashed amber, then white. Then you pair again to your iOS device. Now my headphones last 2 or 3 days, depending on usage, due to a software update that occurred after my headphones were delivered." So Paul is saying, I got my headphones not long after there was a software update, but that software update didn't really seem to kind of go into play to fix the battery problems for some reason. But as soon as he completely factory reset his headphones with that new software update and then repaired, he was getting the battery that he was expecting. Paul says, "My advice if you're having battery issues is try the hard reset and see how it goes. Also, the battery does drain a bit faster if you're using them with your Apple TV for some reason. So if you have an iPad or iOS device, they'll perform better with those. Otherwise, I love them, and their noise cancellation is far superior to Paul's Bose 700s. So thank you, Paul, for writing in. I know that a lot of people have had issues with their AirPods Max. I wouldn't be surprised, Dan, if you've gotten questions about that as well.
I've heard a lot about battery problems for sure. It seems like people have been complaining about that, and I'm not clear. I'm glad this fixes their problem. I hope it fixes other people's problems too, but it remains to be seen. I think Apple might need to issue a firmware update or something at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know Rosemary Orchard has AirPods Max. My other co-host, Matthew Casanelli, had AirPods Max for a while, and both of them talked about battery issues. And I think Christina Warren also talked about battery. I've seen a lot of people talk about battery drain with these things. I've had problems with my AirPods Pro before that it wasn't that crackly thing. That was a no fix kind of solution other than replacement. But there was a Bluetooth issue, and that hard reset worked for them. So I'm not surprised that it works in this case too. Honestly, 90% of our troubleshooting is some form of turn it off and turn it on again.
Turn it back on again. Yep, that's right.
Our last one is a question, and it comes from Raymond. Raymond writes in to talk about Apple's, iOS specifically, the voicemail transcription feature that is part of iOS. And he says, is there a way to stop voicemail transcription? I find it doesn't work well, and it delays getting the voicemail while it tries. So this is interesting to me. First of all, I don't do calls. I don't really do phone calls. So I guess I do more often get voicemails, but I tend to not listen to those voicemails until like 6 months later. Basically, don't call me. That's just not a good way to get in touch with me. But so I've never known this. I've never known that a voicemail, while it's transcribing, you can't listen to it, or at least that's what Raymond has claimed here. And so he was asking, is there a way to stop voicemail transcription so that A, because the voicemail transcription hasn't been very good for Raymond, and B, it stops them from being able to hear the voicemail. Can I shut it off? Well, I did some research, and it appears that there is not currently a way, a sort of actual toggle, a setting to turn off voicemail transcription. But in doing that research, I came across several articles that have a very stupid, and I'm sorry to say that, but it is a very stupid recommendation for fixing, and I say that with the biggest scare quotes possible, fixing the transcription feature. Here's what you need to do. Transcription is in U.S. English or Canadian English only, you can change the Siri language to disable the voicemail transcription service on your iPhone. Go to Settings, Siri, Language, and change Siri's language to Australian English or Indian English. After changing Siri's language, voicemail transcription will not be able to transcribe your voicemails on iPhone. Instead, it will just show transcription unavailable. Folks, this is not a solution. This is a hack. And so
I don't think I'd recommend that.
Exactly. And that is exactly how I feel about it too. The thing what happens whenever you do that is you change the way that Siri not only sort of communicates, and I don't mean actual voice, because that is a different setting, but communicates in terms of diction, in terms of syntax, in terms of all sorts of grammatical choices, and then also the way that Siri understands you. Yep. So by changing that, you are going to potentially run into more problems than Siri already has using by changing this feature. So I think unless you have a really good Australian accent, let me tell you, because I have changed the language before, and you need to actually speak in the accent that you've changed the language to. Very awkward if you're just sitting there talking to your friends, and then all of a sudden, like, "G'day, mate. How are you doing, Siri?" Don't do that. That was a terrible Australian accent. I apologize to that entire country. Right. If Raymond is a method actor who is working on an Australian role or an Indian role, an American or an English Indian role, then maybe, Raymond, this is the right choice for you. But outside of those two very particular instances, I think that it is not a good idea to go about this. It's definitely a hacky way. And I think, Raymond, the larger point here is that Apple should provide a way to turn off voicemail transcription if it's not something you want. So I think that is potentially something I'll have to do in a feedback bug report deal, because there should be a setting. In fact, I was really shocked whenever I got this bit of feedback and thought, it was kind of one of those, oh, for sure there's a setting. I just got to find where it is. And then to not have it there was like, what? You could probably turn off all of visual voicemail if you wanted to. But again, that might be more trouble than it's worth, because then you'd have to go back to like dialing into your voicemail. There is a way to do that, I think, somehow. But I would not recommend it. I would think the fix is worse than the problem. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. That fix is not a fix. It's a trap. But let us move on to our final segment of iOS Today. It's time for the app caps. Folks, This is the App Cap segment of iOS Today, the part of the show where we put on hats that are sometimes silly or caps of some sort that are sometimes silly to talk about our app picks of the week. These are the apps that we love that are either new that we want to share with all of you or apps that we've been using for a long time. And today, in honor of Valentine's Day, I went looking for a pink app cap. And the one that I found was this princess cap. I don't know what you're supposed to do with this part. Is it supposed to be a veil, or is it supposed to just kind of sort of lay loungingly, or does it sort of move behind? I don't know. I mean,
you do you, Mikah. You do you.
Exactly. I think what I'm going to do is sort of bend the cap and have it kind of out to the side of me. Now, Dan, tell us about your hat today.
This hat. This is the most amusing hat that I've got in the world. I actually stole this from my wife. This is one of her hats, but I can't quite get it to the point where you can see the eye. You need to be able to see the eyes and the antlers and all of that.
Yeah, for listeners out there, Dan is wearing a moose hat, but it is like a anthropomorphic moose hat. Is that what we want to say? It's sort of,
yeah, sure. It's shaped
it's got
like
a big old
moose.
nose.
Oh man, yeah. I have to do my Bullwinkle voice with this. Hey, Mikah, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
I don't know how to do Rocky's voice, so I haven't heard that in such a long time.
That trick never works.
There you go. He does them both, folks.
Sure. There you go. Enjoy my Bullwinkle impersonation.
Dan, why don't you tell us about your app cap for today?
My app cap for today. All right. So my app it's a bit nerdy, but Mikey, you may have realized that I'm a bit of a nerd. So my app pick is Prompt 2, which is an app that I've been using for a very long time, and I used Prompt before that. It is from the fine folks at Panic, who are makers of excellent software, including Transmit and a bunch of other great stuff. And they make some games now, too. And what Prompt 2 is it's an SSH client for iOS. And as someone who spends a lot of time in the command line, because it's something that I enjoy playing around with, Prompt is like the best way to use SSH on your iOS device. You can save all the settings for your various servers, and it's got a ton of options. You can change the colors and the theme. You can change how it beeps when you've got it. You can store your SSH keys. You can use Face ID to secure your connections when you're on there. And then when you log in and are using it, it has these great features that make navigating the command line really easy. So it can store, like, it can remember commands for you, can do autocomplete of commands. Like if you're typing like, oh, I need to list all the files in the directory, but I always list them this particular way. And you'll find that when you type like ls, which is the command for listing files, it'll notice like, oh, I noticed you always type -al after that. Would you like to just tap this and complete it there? I was like, oh yes, thank you, I would. So it's an extremely powerful and really nice SSH client. And if you spend a lot of time in the command line logging into all your various, different computers, it's great. It's just fantastic. I think it really is not something that I think, everybody needs, but it's something that I find super handy. You can store like little snippets of code and it's got like little, sort of overlays where you can bring up all the useful Unix related commands that you might end up needing. Like, oh, how do I type this special character? And it's got like a little way to do that. So I think it's fabulous. I've been using it for a long time. It is a little pricey. It's $15. But if you're someone who does this a lot, let me tell you, you're going to save a lot of time by using Prompt.
Can you give the listeners an example of how you most regularly use?
Sure. So like, I think a thing that I do a lot of times is I run into problems where it's like, oh no, my Mac has locked up. I need to log into it and see if I can maybe quit some stuff, but I can't log into it because it's frozen. So I'll open Prompt on my iPad and I'll use SSH to log in, and you can enable the ability to log in the sharing preference frame on your Mac by activating remote login. And I'll use some command line tools to sort of look at, oh, what process is eating up a lot of information? And then I can, again, use sort of my command line know-how to try and quit that from the command line. Because a lot of times, even if the UI is frozen, the computer is still running and you can still get into it. So that's one thing I use it for a lot. I also maintain my own web server, and it has my website on it. which is like a WordPress blog. And so I need to install stuff there. I need to update stuff. And so I use Prompt to sort of go into the command line and log into my remote server, which is hosted over at Linode, and spend some time, updating stuff. So it is, again, it's a bit of a niche tool, I admit. But as somebody who has a lot of affinity for the command line, I really love Prompt, and I love that it brings that experience, like that's super old school, to a very, very modern piece of technology.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, actually. I didn't know that there was a nice SSH client on the iPad. So I'm definitely, I don't do a whole lot in SSH, but I do have network attached storage that I sometimes want to SSH into. And so having that not be something where I have to head over to my Mac and take care of it is quite nice. So yeah, $14.99 in the App Store. Of course, we'll include a link to it so that you can check it out. And made by Panic, and as you said, really great folks, and that you're getting a very well created, well designed app that is going to have many years of support and sort of improvements as are needed, and then doing it on both the iPhone and the iPad. That's pretty neat.
Oh man, it's fun doing it on the iPhone, because I literally logged into my servers while I was sitting in a doctor's waiting room or something. Oh no, my server's down. Hold on, I've got my iPhone. I can log in and type a few commands, and it's up again. Nice.
As for me, I am talking this week about pins for Pinboard. So for folks who use Pinboard, which is a way to store, it's just a bookmarking tool. It's a way to kind of store bookmarks. Leo famously uses it for kind of the different topics he wants to talk about on the shows that he does during the week. And so as a producer of MacBreak Weekly, I will head there to see what stories he's spotted to add them to the list of stories that I've spotted to add to the MacBreak Weekly rundown. I was not ever really a user of Pinboard. It was just not, there are so many other tools out there, and I have a different place where I save links, but I decided to get a Pinboard as a way to kind of keep organization of my shows as well. So basically the way that Leo uses it, I thought that's actually a novel way of using it. But there's an app called Pins for Pinboard. It's available for free to download. And then for $9.99, you can unlock all the features. A one-time purchase, $9.99. And it is just essentially a way to see all of your pins. You can add to your pins. Here on the left is how I can get to those different pins. And then right now, I've got a lot of archived content because I was importing some of my old stuff. But now, this story we talked about today on iOS Today, in the middle are the stories that have been added to the links that have been added to my Pinboard. And then on the right is a browser view of that page. So I can very easily see that. But it's the integrations with Pinboard that I think kind of make it magical, that I can essentially use it because of the API, to pull things automatically, so I can drop stories in here and automatically pull them up where I need to. And then it's got different tools for showing the community bookmarks, for example, and using the different type of multitasking views. So you can also see popular stories on Pinboard. And here's a popular story on Pinboard that we actually talked about on Tech News Weekly yesterday. So this is kind of nice because what I'll end up finding here are maybe some tech stories that I want to talk about, because Pinboard tends to be more of a tool for folks who are more steeped in tech. It's a little bit, it's kind of bare bones. And so in that sense, it is more made to be just a basic list of your bookmarks that you can then put other stuff. You can connect other stuff to it. It's got a simple API setup system. And in fact, the Pins app for Pinboard uses the API. You can either log in with your account using your login credentials, or better is just to use the API code to do so. And so, yeah, if you're looking for a well-designed and simple app for not only seeing your pins, but also seeing kind of the community pins and other tools like that. And then like this smart collections, which is kind of cool. You can set up different smart collections. You should definitely check out Pins for Pinboard. A very simple, easy to use app for adding pins with all of the necessary bits that Pinboard has to offer. So free to download and check out and use many of the tools. $9.99 to unlock all of the features. That, folks, is Pins for Pinboard. And that also brings us to the end of iOS Today. If you have questions, feedback, etc., that you want to send our way for Rosemary and I to answer on the show next week or in the future, send those to iOS today@twit.tv. That way we can answer. We'll take, of course, text, but also audio and video. Try to keep those under about 30 seconds if you can to ask your question. If you can't, it's okay. We'll figure it out. But we would love to see some audio and video, hear some audio, see some video as well with your questions for us to answer. Dan Moren, first of all, thank you so much for joining me this week. You want to pitch some things and let folks know where they should go to follow you online?
Sure. I would love to pitch my books. As Mikah mentioned at the top of the show, I am a sci-fi novelist, so you can check out my books. They're available on Amazon and iBooks, Apple Books, all the fine bookstores online. The Bayern Agenda, the Aleph Extraction, the Caledonian Gambit. You can find out all about all of those over at my website, which is dmoren.com, where you can also see a full list of all the podcasts I host, including Clockwise with Mikah every week over at Relay FM. And you can find me on Twitter at dmoren.
Excellent. Of course, we record this show live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And you can head to twit.tv/live to hang out with us live, and twit.tv/IRC if you want to join the chat. But the best way to get the show, folks, is to go to twit.tv/iOS and subscribe to the show in any format of your choice, audio and video across all of the different places: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We're in all the places that you are, so you can subscribe to the show there. And a shout out again to those of you who took the time to rate and review the show. We really appreciate that. We've seen lots of new ratings and reviews on the Apple Podcasts library, in the Apple Podcast library, and that means so much to us. I know Rosemary is thrilled and is excited to be back next week for another episode of iOS Today. Until then, Dan and I say goodbye.
Bye.
Hey folks, I'm Ant Pruitt, host of Hands of Photography here on TWiT TV. I know some of you have gotten yourself a brand new camera, or you just had a camera sitting around and can't quite figure out how to get the most out of it. Well, I have a solution. My show, Hands on Photography. So subscribe right now to learn how to get the most out of that camera. I'm going to show you how to make those images pop. I don't care if it's a Canon camera. I don't care if it's a Sony, Nikon, iPhone, Android, even an inexpensive Android device. I got you covered. So head on over to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.